really was the day for Supermax today. Only driver to break the 103s, and he did it on his first run. Although his second run was also good enough for his sixth career pole position in Formula One, it still feels weird that he's only got 6 poles. It feels so much more than that. And although Bottas put in a valiant effort to finish P2, he will of course get that grid penalty tomorrow, which means it will be a Hamilton and Verstappen shootout. But with Lando Norris up there as well in P3, amazing day for that McLaren. Not so much on the other side of the garage, but we'll get into that, no doubt. Welcome to tonight's live Q&A. We are here, myself and John Noble, our F1 reporter, to answer your questions after qualifying. I can already see in the audience we have a lot of Max fans. I'm seeing a lot of Max, Supermax comments. Kaiser Chiefs fan, George did well. Yes, indeed he did. And we're going to talk about him as well. But if you have any specific questions, drop them in the comments or in the Q&A box below. And I'm going to bring John Noble in to provide us with some top quality content to answer all of your F1 related questions. There he is. I'm going to bring him in and we'll do that.
Hello.
Good evening.
You all right?
Yeah, I've been thinking all day. I don't remember another season where qualifying has been quite so consistently exciting.
No, it's good. And today was good, both in terms of all the sessions. So even Q1 had a bit of uncertainty. Q2 had the jeopardy of were the medium runners, so the Red Bulls and or Max and the Mercedes, were they going to actually get knocked out because the gaps were so small? So they were on a knife edge. And then Q3 was great. Bit of different tactics from Red Bull and Mercedes. All good.
Yeah, it is a good. Now I'm seeing, because we've had a lot of we've had a few post-race, post-quali. I know, I'm already in tomorrow. I'm already there. Post-quali penalties and situations. So we've had Yuki Tsunoda get a grid drop for impeding Bottas, which has promoted George Russell. So a lot of questions coming in already is, does George still get a free tyre choice considering he's bumped up the grid, or does he now lose that? What happens now, John? Do you know?
No, he gets the free tyre choice. So the rules are, I think the rules are purely for those drivers. I can't remember what the exact wording is, but I think the rule is that those drivers who made it through to Q3 are those that must start on the tyre they used in Q2. So for George, it's great because starting in P11 with a free choice is pretty good anyway. But if you move up another, even though it's one slot, it's still quite important. But George was, pretty chuffed. He says he feels that the potential of the car is there now to potentially get some points tomorrow. They've worked on. He says they've done something slightly different in the setup in recent races, which may have shifted things a bit more towards the race rather than qualifying. But it seems to give him a confidence in the car because that was pretty close to Q3 today.
What was it? 8,000ths he was off. Oh, it is Austria, we know, and I think you were telling us last night, Johnny, and also on the Autosport podcast, it's a bit different around here because the margins, because it's a short track and it's very quick, that the gaps are always marginal, but 8,000ths is the difference between making it into Q3 and not. But he must be feeling pretty good for tomorrow. Do you think he's going to finally finish in the points for Williams?
I think the potential is there. I think if he starts, he'll probably start on the medium because you'll obviously go for a different strategy to the cars directly ahead of you. And the medium's obviously the better tyre to start the race on because that's what Mercedes and Verstappen have done. So that gives him quite a good opportunity in terms of offset. He probably, I guess a lot of people outside the top 10 will start on the medium, so he shouldn't get swallowed up at the start. Then he lets the soft runners, they'll pull away in the early stages, and then they come into pit, and then it'll be how long he can push that medium on, if of course it stays dry.
Yes, a lot of people want to know, people are saying there's a 90% chance of rain tomorrow. Yesterday when we were talking, it was about 40 to 50. What have you? I've not checked the weather forecast, John, recently, but I mean, is it going to be as high as 90%? Are we going to have a wet Styrian Grand Prix?
I saw two forecasts today at exactly the same time. One said 40% chance of rain for the race, and one said 80% chance of rain for the race. So the FIA one seems to be pushing it much more likely. But I think the other difficulty is because the track's located at the bottom of a mountain range, and often the different air temperature can affect where the rain comes down. So it can be raining all around the circuit, and actually it doesn't come down on the track, or vice versa. It can pour down the mountain and not affect the outside area. So it could rain but not hit the track, or it could just be completely focused on that side of the mountain and onto the circuit. But I think it's one to watch in the morning because it's almost impossible to predict. It's a bit like Monaco, really, because of the mountains above the harbour. I guess this kind of small little microclimate that can be totally different to what's going on in the outside area, which makes the forecast so difficult.
I can see Tracy P in the comments is doing a rain dance. Because we did have a wet Styrian Grand Prix. Oh, was it just qualifying that was wet, or was it the entire weekend? It was just qualifying, wasn't it?
Qualifying last year, wasn't it, for the Styrian Grand Prix? The second one was a complete pour down.
It was indeed, which is what we've got it this time just swapped. So we've got Styrian Grand Prix first, and maybe we'll have a reversal again. And it would be great if we have differing conditions for the two races, because then it won't feel maybe so samey. But anyway, if it does rain tomorrow, Johnny, because we've got probably two of the strongest rain masters on the grid battling out at the front. So could that, I mean, do you see it swinging in anyone's favour, or Max seemed really under control today. So who do you think that's going to favour if it does end up raining?
It's really, really hard to tell, because both are brilliant in the rain. So you couldn't really say that one was especially better or worse in wet conditions. Car-wise, it kind of would kind of neuter any advantage that Mercedes have in terms of kind of tyre wear and tyre life in terms of managing compounds over a stint. So it would just come down to potentially downforce levels and potentially who makes the fewest mistakes. But I mean, I think it would be absolutely epic to have a Lewis v Max head-to-head maybe not in a complete downpour, but in one of those mixed races where it's shifting from damp to wet to damp to dry and moving around, and we get to really see which of the two doesn't make the mistake.
Again, I mean, I feel like we do have a lot of Max fans in the audience, but I'm seeing a couple of people saying if it rains, Max is going to win. Max is going to win. I mean, it is currently advantage Red Bull, advantage Max, for not just because they're sat at pole position, but also because Valtteri is being dropped back a little further. So as we saw how important it is to have both drivers up there to help play strategy games, what do you anticipate is going to be the approach of those top two teams tomorrow?
Well, I think the Red Bull appears to be the fastest car this weekend, both over short runs, as was shown today, and the long run pace looked pretty good. Lewis said afterwards that it appears Red Bull have got this quarter of a second advantage. So pace-wise, in a straight head-to-head, you'd think Max could maintain the advantage over Lewis. And we saw in Paul Ricard that the Mercedes cannot get the straight line speed advantage to get through. But longer straights here, potential for DRS as well. So maybe it would be a bit easier to overtake here than at Paul Ricard, because you just felt Lewis just needed another 5 meters or something in Paul Ricard, and that would have been enough to try to make a move. Whereas I think that would potentially be easier here. And then I think we'll boil down to strategy, and then the classic: is it an undercut or is it an overcut race? Because that's been a bit unpredictable in recent weeks as well sometimes. So I think again it's going to come down to a mixture of which driver doesn't make any errors, which team doesn't make any errors, which team maximises its pit stops, and then potentially which of those two cars can look after its tyres the most. I mean, both of them have got the potential to win this race easily.
Gut feeling, John. Do you think Red Bull or Mercedes have the edge?
Normally, you'd say Mercedes are better on a Sunday and can do it, but you just sense there's some momentum gathering now at Red Bull that um, they've obviously unlocked something in this car because they can take the downforce off, so to give them the straight line speed advantage, and then that doesn't seem to cost them much in the corners. So they've obviously found a sweet spot with the car, with the power unit. Potentially, they've optimized the energy usage, so that's given them a decent straight line speed as well. And Max is on, super top form, leading the championship. So it's not as if he's under pressure to claw back a 50-point deficit and needs to win. So you just sense the momentums with Red Bull at the moment.
Okay, interesting. We'll see if that plays out. I think I'm inclined to agree. Mercedes seem a bit, I don't know, distracted's the wrong word. They're not. They're very much kind of zeroed in on winning, but I feel like there are just a few things that aren't quite as comfortable in the Mercedes camp as they are over at Red Bull. Now, obviously, we need, they very much need Perez to play the game as well. And there's been a question here about what Perez can do in order to help with race strategy tomorrow. But I wanted to just quickly turn attentions to the person who has inherited P3 on the grid thanks to Valtteri's grid drop. Lando flipping Norris.
It's great, wasn't it?
There were points at that in Q3 where I was like, is he gonna get up higher than that? Like that, he was just absolutely on fire. He seems to really love this track. I don't know if it's because it's like a bit like a kart track, isn't it? Obviously it's not. You wouldn't want to take a go-kart around this. Or maybe you would, but you probably wouldn't get very far. But what is it about this track, or what is it about Lando at the moment that is delivering such good performances? And do you think, as F1 Network asks, he could cause trouble for the top two?
Yeah, it's a track that probably suits the McLaren. The McLaren's aero efficient. It's good in kind of the medium to high speed corners that there are a lot of here. I know you've got the tight turn 3. That's probably the slowest corner on the track. The rest are kind of the medium high territory that we know the McLaren's good at. Norris just switches on, doesn't he, on Saturdays? It's just great. And for all this supposed weakness McLaren has with its qualifying, it's not actually been that bad. And I think tomorrow there'll be potential to cause trouble at the start because he'll start on the softer tyre. So, that gives him a decent run down to turn 1 and turn 2 because the tyres will be switched on. So he could gain a position then, maybe even lead. But I think...
Could you imagine Lando Norris leading a race?
But I think generally the race pace of the Mercedes and Red Bull is still a big step over what McLaren can unleash. So I don't think he'll have the... If he does lead, it'll be short-lived. Because I think as soon as the medium runners' tyres are up to temperature and they've settled into it, they'll come back past him if he, pulls off this brilliant first lap. But no reason why he can't finish best of the rest. And if Perez or Bottas hit some trouble, then why not a podium?
Yeah, I mean, what a run of form he would be on if he manages to bring home another McLaren podium tomorrow. Yeah, interesting one that. He is last lap Lando last year. He seems to pull that out of the bag. And he's also one of the only drivers who's consistently moved forward in a race rather than backwards. I mean, there's not many more places to go forward than where he is now. So I think he'd be very happy to bring home a P3 tomorrow, but we'll have to wait and see. But alternately, on the other side of the garage, not so good. What on earth happened, as a lot of people are asking? What has happened to Danny Rick?
He calls it a mystery, basically. A bit of head scratching that yesterday, come out of France quite bullish and upbeat, and then yesterday had a great run in, was it P1? He was second?
FP2, I think he was.
FP2.
He was second, yeah.
So he was well up, felt all comfortable. And they got back in the car today and car just didn't feel there. So doesn't particularly understand why. Just said he lacked confidence in it. That if he tried to push the car to the limit and do what Lando was doing, then the car would just be washing out and he'd be off track and picking up track limits penalties. So he was, I think, quite frustrated and annoyed that his limit wasn't that he couldn't drive the car quicker. Is that he was is that the car wouldn't let him drive quicker. So, but he doesn't particularly have a explanation. So whether it's related to change of temperatures today, because it's a bit warmer, I think, this afternoon than it was yesterday. So has that shifted the balance and pushed it into territory that doesn't suit Daniel's driving style? Were there any setup differences with Lando? That's something for McLaren to look at. But yeah, very, very disappointed, Daniel, tonight.
Yeah, especially, I guess, again, his younger teammate, already with a sight on a podium, is gonna sting a little bit. So let's just hope for. I mean, where did he finish? Where is he starting from tomorrow? I've lost my list. That's not very good, is it? Stalk among yourselves. He's starting P13. Yeah. That's quite savage for Daniel, but there we go. We know he's got a good racer under there, so we'll have to see what he can do tomorrow. Right, another driver that people wanted to know about in terms of a comeback rather than a negative question was Fernando Alonso, who had, again, it got through to Q3 and said, even if I don't get any higher than that, I'll be happy. He seemed to really enjoy it out there today.
Yeah, he loved it. I spoke to him this afternoon after his famous, beautiful radio message. He just said he just enjoyed every lap out there today. So he feels kind of happy and comfortable in the car. He feels happy and comfortable with the team. And he said it's a track that he said just makes you really, really stressed out, basically, because you have all these challenging corners at the start of the lap. And then you've nailed your first two sectors. And then you come to these final two corners that are really, really tricky to get right because you're plunging downhill, blind apexes, blind exits, and you know that you misjudge it slightly, you're over the curb, track limits, and lose the entire lap. So, as you said, just all that kind of stress and worry and just of getting through those two corners, that when he did it was just this feeling of joy after that lap, just completing the lap. So he says he's still not 100%. He says still, every day he's learning more and improving, but you just sense he's hit a pretty good sweet spot now in that Alpine.
Yeah, it's good. What do you think of the Red Bull Ring, John? I personally quite enjoy watching it and watching the guys drive. It's so, like you say, you can tell it's challenging. Like they are wrestling with the car the whole way around, and it's quick. Are you a fan of the Red Bull Ring?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a good little racetrack. And I think it's important on the F1 calendar that we do have these kind of different varieties, not only in terms of characteristics. So you get your street circuits like Monaco, Baku, Singapore, and you get your classic circuits like Spa and Monza. But Red Bull Ring is unique. It's short. It appears quite simple, but because it's short and it looks quite simple, it's actually quite hard for drivers to get an advantage. And it's quick and rapid. The gaps are small. It punishes mistakes. Looks amazing on TV. So it's been a definite positive addition to the calendar since it came back.
2014 it returned, I think, didn't it? Something like that. And what do you make of the because this is what we didn't touch on last night, but the slight track additions that have come in. We saw quite a number of track limit breaches today. It is quite tricky, especially around turn 10, isn't it, where they're getting a lot of lap times deleted. But they've got a lot of gravel there. We saw Raikkonen dip a wheel into the gravel trap. But again, it's quite like you said, it's an unforgiving circuit, and then being very unforgiving with track limits.
No, that's what it should be. I think it's a much better balance doing it how they've done it. Turn 6, which is the left-hander that goes down the hill, they pulled the gravel trap in towards the track a little bit, which basically means if you go off track, you're in the gravel, which is almost a perfect physical deterrent, because if it was just asphalt runoff area there, drivers would be running wide and it'd be another track limits, lap time deleted, whereas you hit the gravel, your tyres are ruined and your lap's ruined, and that's what it should be like. It's it sorts itself out, doesn't cause any problems. I'm not sure, obviously a bit more difficult at the final corner, because if you pull the gravel trap too close there, it could be fairly sizable shunts. if it's in the wrong place. But so it's potentially not a solution that can be done everywhere. But I think it's a much better. This is a better answer than track limits on an asphalt runoff area or curbs that are smashing up the cars.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't agree more. And I hate to say we're just always going to repeat ourselves on this topic because you and I agree. So we won't dwell on it too much, but this is a great track for it. So, right, I'm seeing Creed Bratton _official is getting annoyed because I haven't picked his question, even though it's got the most votes. So let's cover this for you, Creed Bratton. Chances of Lando winning if it rains tomorrow?
I think if it rains, then I think it depends what sort of rain. I know sounds like the old British Rail wrong type of leaves, but the rain, depending if it's a complete downpour, could potentially make things too tricky for drivers, and you don't see these great races. But if it's a shower and a damp track and things are moving around a lot, then why not? He was great at Imola. He understands that car. I think the McLaren can switch on its tyres pretty well. Why not? Why not one of those absolutely crazy races where lots of drivers are off and it's pit stop chaos and the order's shuffled around and really unpredictable, and someone, a surprise like Lando, picks his way through and pulls it off.
Well, yeah, all you've got to do really is keep the car on track, right? that's kind of good. So there you are, Creed Bratton. You are welcome. Thank you for saying thank you. Right, let's go. Obviously, they had a bit of a hard time out in Paul Ricard. They qualified well, but then just dropped back. Do we see the same thing happening tomorrow? Are those same niggles still there? Because I think something else that you touched on last night was they don't actually know if they can fix the problems. So are we going to see a repeat of tomorrow where Leclerc and Sainz are going to basically fall backwards?
I think today may well have been a kind of manifestation of the response from last weekend, because it's all related to the front tyres. So the problem in France was, the problem for Ferrari is it's overheating its front tyres too much, and then they lose performance and degrade, and then they need to pit. So it's been controlling the temperature of the front tyre is key. So I think they've done a lot of work to try to bring that tyre temperature down for the race so it can be more consistent. But I think in doing that, the Ferrari's lost one of the core advantages which it showed in Monaco and Baku, that a car that can heat up its front tyres really well is great for qualifying, because the car's switched on and sorted. So that, I think today they couldn't get the front tyres. Maybe they've shifted the setup into an area where the front tyres are cooler and it's not been so good for qualifying. So I think neither Charles nor Carlos really switching that front tyre on today, were lacking a bit of grip. But then maybe a more disappointing day today opens a door for a kind of a push forward tomorrow. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think, that's the main thing. People are asking about Perez. Let's just finish on Perez. So he's starting behind Lando. What do you, obviously, do you anticipate a battle? What's Bottas going to do, basically? I think, what's Bottas going to do from P5? Do you think everything that's happening today, he came out with quite a fiery quote, saying that everything's trying to screw, in this sport, everybody's trying to screw you over. Is he fired up? Do you think we're going to see a very kind of aggressive Valtteri Bottas tomorrow, one that we've maybe not been seeing so much recently, mainly over the radio? And what do you anticipate between Bottas and Perez?
Yeah, I think Bottas and Perez will have kind of different races tomorrow. So Lando and Sergio being on the softs, so they'll probably be pretty aggressive early on and have a bit of pace for definitely for the first lap. So, both of those can move forwards. Then you'll see the medium runners come back at them and probably then overtake them either towards the end of that first stint and definitely the pit stops. And I think Valtteri will be playing the longish game tomorrow. He's on the mediums, so at least he's got that thing. He can sit behind kind of the Lewis and Max battle. But he seems comfortable with the car. He seems to be much more on top of it again this weekend. So, he's definitely got a car that can fight for the podium. And maybe, Formula One often has this habit of a driver has a loads of stuff thrown at them, circumstance working against them, and then it's suddenly all the bad luck is paid back with a bit of good fortune on a Sunday. So maybe the dice roll his way tomorrow and he gets past both Max and Lewis.
Too. Bottas especially needs as many people he can get his hands on. So yeah, he's going to be hoping for a good result from P5 tomorrow. Right, let's do our predictions then, John. Oh, actually, what was our predictions yesterday? You went for Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, and I went for Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas. So I think you were closer, but again,
Top three right, just
not in the right order. But I'm going to say you were maybe closer. But yeah, okay. So what about tomorrow? What about the podium tomorrow, John?
I'm going to go for Verstappen, I think, just because I think the momentum and car speed is there, and Perez up there can help him on the strategy front again. Then maybe I might put controversial Bottas second.
All right.
And then do I do someone random third? Or Lewis third? Let's do someone random. Let's put Norris on the podium.
Okay.
Left field choice.
All right, let's do it. I'm just gonna go for a bonkers one. Should we just do it? Let's just have some fun. I'm gonna go for a Norris win. Could you imagine?
Oh, blimey.
Something's gonna have to have gone really wrong at the front. But rain.
Yeah.
Them getting their elbows out. It's gonna be interesting. Damn it, your reaction. Okay. Right, what else are we seeing? I'm seeing Verstappen, Hamilton, Norris. So okay. So Vicky, you're predicting it might be an exciting race, but you're predicting a straightforward, same as they lined up finish. Linux has got Hamilton, Norris, Gasly. We don't often touch on the AlphaTauri, but again, it was a good showing from Gasly again today. Right, what else are we looking at? Hamilton win, Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, Max, Norris, Ham, Checo. Okay. Dreaming is always welcome. Thanks, Samuel. We like to dream here over at motorsport.com. Very often we write down the realities, but John and I are allowed to just, speculate and
make it
dream
up
when we're on this live. So, okay, right, what have I got? I've got Norris. I'm going to go for Norris. Right, so for that to happen, it's not going to be a straightforward,
No, it's going to be... If Norris wins, he's not going... I think if Norris wins, he's not going to come across the line in front of Verstappen and Hamilton. It's going to be really, really mixed up, crazy race.
So maybe I'll put Bottas second and then Perez third. So Max and Hamilton have taken each other out. There we go. Anyone else are we seeing? Schumacher, Mazepin. We asked you to predict the top three, not the bottom three. Oh, I felt a bit sorry for Latifi today, actually.
He was close, wasn't he? Nearly got there. I didn't see on the TV, but it appeared that he lost time with traffic at that final sector. Everyone was backing up to find some gap. I think he just got a bit unlucky on that sector, but it would have been good for him to get through to Q2 as well.
Yeah. It always feels like he gets so close and then Russell just seems to always outshine him. But we'll have to see what they can do in the race. The Williams is looking heaps better, so we'll have to see what they can do in the race tomorrow. All right, well, that's our predictions locked in. We'll have to come back tomorrow after the race. I'm hoping for a good... I've got I've got nervous energy about tomorrow.
Right.
I feel like it can go one of two ways, but I feel like it could be a pretty hectic race for us to try and go through tomorrow, Johnny. What are your gut feelings?
What I like about this season is the races are unpredictable, because I think on no Saturday night have we been able to... We might have got the result right on the Sunday, but we've not been able to predict how they've got to that point. So there's all these different factors, whether it's been track limit penalties or great overtaking moves or running off the track or strategy calls or pit stop problems. There's always something unexpected has come up and made the races great. So I think that's one of the strengths of this season. I think it's been an epic year so far.
Yeah, I'm seeing everybody saying the same. So here's hoping. Get your prayer circle